Welcome back, everybody. We are excited about our next few episodes. We're going to do a series with a gentleman named Dan Allison, and really excited about Dan's perspective because it comes from a few different angles in the industry, and we're going to focus around his experience in what his company called Feedback Marketing Group, which is how to drive referrals with clients, as well as his experience in running Brokers Clearinghouse, which is on the life insurance side of the industry. So it's going to be a series of episodes that we are very excited to bring you the first of today. So we'll get into it.
Welcome to the Getting Past the Premium podcast.
All right, welcome, Dan.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
It is good to be here so far.
Yeah.
I've been here like 4 minutes, but so far so good.
Yeah.
We haven't beat you up too bad.
Yeah, I was told there'd be whiskey. I got coffee and water.
I know, I'm not. Well, no, this is a mix of, it's 2 parts hydrogen to 1 part oxygen.
Got it.
You know,
so we're going to get
some people
super
call it water
today.
Yeah, but that's the drink of choice today.
Awesome.
Well,
like
we
it.
also figured that we couldn't start drinking at 1 on a Friday.
Who figured that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, clients that scheduled on my calendar at 3 and 4, but
Water works.
yeah. No, well, hey, we're pumped about having you on and look forward to diving into some topics. You know, what we're focusing on in this particular podcast is moving from this archaic transactional risk management industry to a deep advisory based, industry where it's looked at a lot different than what it has been in the past. And we're pumped about just kind of getting your perspective because, as Elliot mentioned in the intro, there's so many different facets that you can bring some experience. So I guess with that, if you wouldn't mind just kind of give a couple minute high level background on you and we can kick it off.
Yeah, my background's kind of confusing. Originally clinical psychology. I started a company in that industry in my early 20s, sold it in my mid-20s, 27 years old, I think I sold it. We had about 70 locations when we sold it. Then I had a non-compete clause and got into the finance industry like an idiot. Should have done some research before I did that. In the insurance industry
Who sold you on that one?
Yeah, I know. A great salesperson, transactional salesperson. Got me to buy that stock. And I spent the last 18 years being trapped in the finance industry between wealth management, consulting firms that provide wealth management, kind of comprehensive planning, and then on the insurance side, people who do planning. Also, I work to the point of transaction versus consultative advice in the risk management space.
Yeah.
I work with those kind of firms because I think that has got to be, if people haven't evolved from transaction to advice-driven risk management, I think they're going to be consumed in the future by a movement of consumers demand that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Every study on earth shows that people unequivocally prefer to have all their financial affairs in one spot. Mm-hmm. And the same studies show that those same people declare that they have 3 to 5 financial people. So it's like they want this, but they have this.
Yeah.
And it's because of the history of the industry being siloed. You got a stockbroker, you got a property and casualty guy, life insurance salesman.
Yep.
And that world has changed. But we haven't perfected it by any stretch.
No, not even close. And we're super passionate about trying to change the way people think. So I guess with that being said, Dan, what's interesting is that your background is in psychology, and you actually were doing some fairly difficult things back during that time with children and making really tough decisions and learned the way people think and learned how to be an advisor on a whole nother level early on. Talk about that real quick.
Yeah, so we set out, my partner and I, there's a whole demographic of families that have kids who have schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, severe autism, and these kids are difficult to serve because their behavior can become very challenging. And unfortunately, a lot of times these kids have to be taken out of the home and placed in facilities forever. It's not like you can treat them and cure them. It's an ongoing, lifelong battle. So you think about the magnitude of parents coming to the conclusion that we can no longer, just because your kid has schizophrenia doesn't mean you love them differently than a kid, right? So they had to wake up one day and say, the greatest asset we have, our child, we're entrusting in your care. Very high risk if we screwed something up, very high trust, very deep relationships. So I always, we talk about like in the insurance industry or financial industry, comprehensive risk management or comprehensive financial planning. We were comprehensive behavioral management.
Yeah.
Because, I could transact business. I could do therapy. You've got schizophrenia. We've got a great therapist. Really treating somebody with schizophrenia is multifaceted. It's collaborative. So I think every industry deals with these kind of challenges. Like, I don't want to be a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
We don't want one line of business. It's so easy. If I have a bad experience with a therapist, it's not hard to change therapist.
Yeah.
If that person coordinates 7 or 8 different things for me, that's a big decision. So I think that exists in any industry there is.
Yeah, it's a good point. And there is, think of all the awareness that the mental health space has received over the last 5-10 years, and
even the last
it is going to change. If you are a therapist that only specializes in one thing, you're probably sitting where the life insurance single transactional guy is sitting right now.
Yeah, and it's bad for the client or patient.
Yeah.
And it's bad for the professional. It's sitting around doing the same thing all day. It's some of the most miserable people I ever met, and we employed them. Marriage counselors, like those people, 8 to 10 hours a day.
Yeah, could you imagine?
With couples who fight in front of them, and it's like if you did that all day, every day,
kidding.
that wears on you after a while. And so I think that's no different than if I sold the same life insurance policy all day, every day. It becomes too routine for me and not valuable to you.
Yeah. So walk me through then, like, how did you see the opportunity with that type of advisory background in the financial space to get to a point where you were trying to change the way advisors thought about this whole thing?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I dabbled in the finance industry for a while, thinking it'd be an interesting industry, because to me, in the mental health field, if you lined up, 1,000 people, only one qualified to need your help. So I thought in the finance industry, you line up 1,000 people, they all need you.
Yeah.
How easy could that be? You show up and open your office at 8 in the morning, your parking lot's full, people get a bag of money and throw it in front of you and say, what do I do? That's what I thought.
Sounds about right.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you just missed the line.
Yeah, I was wondering why the parking lot's not as full as I thought.
Yeah, we put a sign on the door earlier, said you were coming.
It's all the staff parking is full, but the front row is open.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. But to me, I looked at it and thought, and I've said this all the time about insurance products specifically, but really advice. I've never seen an industry that has something so valuable to deliver and so valuable when it's built at the factory. So if you think about it like a product, whether it's advice or life insurance or P&C or whatever, if you look like a product, I've never seen an industry that has something so valuable when it's built in the factory, but so flawed in the way that it ends up in the hands of the consumer. And whether it's because of bias, because of the way compensation occurs. So I'm biased, I got to sell this company and these products to qualify for that trip, right? There's bias. So it's flawed immediately in the way advice is delivered, or technology. I mean, technology is terrible in the insurance industry specifically. It's just awful.
Yeah.
So when to me, I looked at it and thought this buzzword fiduciary continued to come up, and I thought we've got to do a better job as an industry to acknowledge our past and why people look down. I mean, let's be honest. I own an insurance company.
Yeah.
And people look down on us as the companies 50 years ago who truly were maybe unethical sometimes. And
100%.
So when you're trying to do the right thing by the client, you're swimming upstream against an opinion that you had nothing to do with forming, but we got to do a better job of aggressively changing the industry. So I talk about risk management. If my objective, if you're a business owner, okay, and you are, right? So you've got risk management needs. Someday you want to grow your company. Maybe you want to sell your company, whatever it is. You've got goals you hope to accomplish. And you want to develop a plan for what's the smartest way to give you the highest likelihood to get there. But then over here, you've got risk as you try to accomplish that. Things that you could have a brilliant plan, but if any event occurred, derail that entirely. And I think too many people, especially transaction, this idea of selling. I got to sell you. And I think it's very different that my job is to identify the risk that is inherent today in what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And that can be a multitude of different things. But my job as a fiduciary is to identify where is their risk, to either be the resource or bring in the resource to mitigate the risk or at least solve for it so that you make an educated choice not to move on it. So if you decide you've made me aware of the risk, I'm comfortable with the risk,
sure,
I'm not deploying the solution.
Yep.
That's fine. I understand that.
Yeah.
I find that too many professional financial people don't identify the risk, don't provide the solution. So you got all these consumers taking risk in an uninformed way, and that's where we got to move to. We got to fix that problem.
Yeah. I think it's spot on, and it's a lot of the stuff that we talk about on the show all the time. But your perspective might be a little bit more enlightening than we've had, in that you've seen the transition that has happened up to this point, which may not be as far along as we want.
Right.
Where do you feel like whether it's gone wrong as an industry, or how did we get in this position of, I mean, you think about insurance products, risk management products are inherently a very valuable, very great part of the economy, of anybody's personal life. Like, we provide a protection, we provide a very good service. How did we go so wrong in getting it to be just a transaction with a product?
Unfortunately, God, I could go on such a long vent about the industry, but I think largely it's, we all do this. We want to serve people, but we got to make a living. And the compensation methodology for the majority of risk management products is commission based. Yep. You eat what you kill, and if you're hungry, you got to kill something. Yep. So I think sometimes people are too pushy for the wrong reasons with consumers. Now, companies like you guys are big enough that you're not starving. You can put the client as your priority to make good choices versus pushing choices on them to earn money. But I think that the commission from years ago, and people having to be transactional, waking up January 1st going, where's my first paycheck coming from? Mm-hmm. That's a scary way to live.
Yeah. It's a great problem.
Yeah, and there's millions of us doing what we do. So trying to, I think that's where a lot of the bad behavior comes from. Compensation motivates behavior.
But you can make so much money in this business, Dan.
Yeah, as evidenced by the 87% of people who fail in the first 3 years.
Yeah.
But you guys stick with it.
Yeah. We've all been in the training.
I always tell young guys, like, dude, sell your shoes if you have to in the first 3 years to make it. Because once you get, I've never seen an industry that's a better industry to be successful in.
Yeah.
In getting to see the end result of your work and the kind of money you can make, but I've never seen an industry that's so difficult to get there. Yeah. But it's like, if you have that, put your head down and like plow through it all. Yeah. The future is so bright for people in this industry.
It is. It's just true. I sat in a training room in St. Louis for 2 weeks. First job in the financial services industry. And, at the end of the 2 weeks, they literally go through the talk. I'm like, all right, take a look to your right, take a look to your left. There's only going to be one of you sitting here at the end of the certain period of time.
Thanks for the vote of confidence.
And it's like, they think that's a motivator, and but then unfortunately all the products, the delivery method, and everything else was centered around, doing the wrong thing in a certain period of time to get past the 3 years.
Yeah.
That's the frustrating part. And it still hasn't changed.
Yeah, I sat in the back of one of those trainings because I've never been an advisor. I own an insurance company, but I don't even have an insurance license. I don't have to own the company, right? Yeah. But I sat in one of those trainings, and at the end, the dude said, okay, now everybody's going to write a list of 100 people that if you got married today are the people you would invite to your wedding, and then those are the first people you're going to go see. And I was like, aren't those the people that know that we don't know what we're doing? Shouldn't that be like 3 years from now, not first? I know I was a manager at Gold's Gym 4 months ago. But now we want to talk about your retirement.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to fake it for a while.
Yeah.
It's a tough industry.
The whole thing's backwards because we shouldn't even be advocating that they go have anybody be their guinea pig.
Yeah, don't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
But
It's too important to experiment,
it's
especially
true.
friends and family.
It's true.
Yeah, I know.
Well, so getting back to feedback marketing group, I guess give us the 30-second high level. What is it? What did you identify in the space that you could help with? And we'll go from there.
Yeah, so feedback marketing was created 18 years ago, and it was because most of the people in financial industry, really any industry, but finance specifically, whether it's investment advice, insurance advice, referrals are the best way to grow a business. You know, given an experience that's so good, your customer base doesn't just stay with you, but they talk about you.
Yeah.
But it's also a really challenging topic for most people. How do I bring it up without looking cheesy or salesy or desperate, you know, that kind of thing. So feedback marketing group, we've over 18 years, we've interviewed thousands of consumers about referring financial people. Why do you do it? Why don't you do it? So what we were able to do is really take everything we learned from the interviews and I would say kind of master the psychology of referring and putting a process behind how do advisors, however you define advisor, somebody who gives financial advice.
Sure.
How do you engage a client differently so the likelihood of referring goes up? And that's it. So we coach everybody on how to do that, which starts, to your point at the beginning, going from transactional to advice-driven and consultative is I guess a precursor to me to being referable.
Yeah.
You got to have one hell of a transaction to be referable, right? I mean, you got to sell a widget.
Something different than insurance.
Tell me the last time you sat at dinner. Let me tell you about a life insurance experience I had.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
This life insurance company is better than
the transaction underwriting was amazing. It doesn't, you know. So, but when it's advice driven, it becomes relationship driven. It takes the onus off price, market performance, all the things that we all know we don't control. I don't control pricing in the insurance space, and neither do you guys, right? And we don't control the markets, and never will. Otherwise, we wouldn't advise people. We just take our own money and invest it and never help anybody or tell anybody the secrets. But it really is trying to consult people that believe in that philosophy, because they deserve referrals the most, because they drive the most value. But they ask about it typically the least, because they don't want to violate the relationships. Whereas transactional people, I got nothing to lose, right?
Yeah.
Hey, give me the name. I went to LinkedIn and got the name of 7 people. And I mean, if you get offended and don't talk to me again, I kind of already planned on that.
Yeah, you don't.
I already sold the thing and made the money. So that's.
Yeah, you're asking them for something after you've already sold them a product based,
got no risk.
Just to get your next sale.
No risk.
That's an interesting way to put that too, and because you've got an interesting story in how you were, I guess, how you were delivering this message at a conference or whatnot, and how they kind of highlighted in your mind this maybe particular problem in the industry. Maybe give us that perspective and story.
The referral problem
before the show, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's
how you were marketing it and whatnot.
Yeah, well, when I started my consulting company, I did all this research that I thought was fascinating, right? And hey, I've learned everything that your clients think and care about, and so I would do these workshops that were optional. They weren't forced to be in the room and put me on stage, and it was feedback marketing group. Come learn how engaging your clients and meaningful feedback can deepen relationships and blah blah blah. Which,
by the way, actually sounds awesome.
I would think it's valuable. I thought, oh my God, but they're going to knock my doors down. Then I have like 8 bored people in the room. I'm like, why is everybody going to this dude?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I realized, well, the outcome of all that is referability. You earn more business by deepening relationships, driving more value. So when I changed the marketing message to a professional approach to earning more referrals, now it's waiting room only outside the workshop. And it's same message, different framing of what you do, which also applies to everybody who does what you guys do for a living. It's how do you frame yourself in what you do? Because if I'm a life insurance agent, that people aren't going to be banging my door down. That doesn't mean it's not honorable to deliver those solutions, but you got to figure out how are we different. And I think consultative, going from transaction to consultative, is differentiating.
Yeah.
Well, it's a reality in our business that we are battling a lot of decades of a certain like you mentioned, that probably an era that was maybe less ethical or whatever it was, didn't have the best interest of the client in mind. We're battling that in a lot of people's minds. And then we're also battling an industry that has billions upon billions of dollars in marketing budgets that just says all the products are the same, 15 minutes saves you 15%, and it all will be good.
Yeah.
And everybody like us knows that is so far from the truth, but it's hard to get out of that in the client's mind, right? And I know that's kind of part of what you talk about in feedback marketing groups. So maybe give us some perspective on that reframing piece a little bit. If you're either sitting in that transactional seat today or are working towards becoming that advisor, from your perspective.
I think the first thing, oddly enough, I think one of the hardest things for people to do is to take a step back and remember that what they deliver to people is valuable.
Yeah.
That sounds so simple, but I think so many people have had this sales training beat into their head that they've got this voice talking to them every time they interact with people. You know, if you're a young father with 3 children and you're the primary breadwinner and your wife stays at home and, you know, takes care of the kids, the idea that I'm nervous to talk about life insurance if you don't have any is crazy.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. So it's a reframing of what is the true responsibility of the profession that you chose. I'll give you a great example, guys. Yesterday morning, I was in a meeting. There's a real good friend of mine named Leon, and Leon owns a company like mine, a life insurance brokerage. And he's 60, I think he's 65, 68. Been a legend in the industry. He's in study groups with me on board of directors that I'm on for the last 3 years. And I get an email from his partner yesterday, 8 o'clock in the morning, that said, hey, we need positive thoughts, everyone. Leon had just finally sold his business. He's going to be involved in it forever, right? But he sold it to his partner to spend more time with his kids and his grandkids. And he lives in Orlando, Florida, and his kids are in Colorado. So the email goes on to say that Leon was in a plane crash with his wife this morning. He's a pilot, and they were flying his plane from Orlando to Colorado, total engine failure. Okay, so all we knew at 8 o'clock in the morning yesterday was that the plane, they had a picture of it, but the plane, complete failure. He found a little highway and he landed it with no gear or anything and skidded, and they life flighted him and his wife. That's all we knew at that point. They are both, apparently, as of today, going to survive. However, they both broke their backs. They're never going to be the same. And this is the first thought that went through my head. And I'm cursed with this every time I read in the paper that, you know, this officer was killed in the line of duty or whatever. The first thing I thought is like P&C firms. That plane is destroyed. And I guarantee you that plane is insured.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And they're going to write a check. So that if Leon wants a new plane, he's good.
Yeah.
The bodies and the lives inside that plane will never be the same. Mm-hmm. Now, luckily, he's in my industry. I guarantee you he's insured like crazy. Mm-hmm. But most people are not. So you think you have got to understand that what happened to Leon yesterday happens every single day. Yeah. And I get kind of pissed off about it a lot when I'm on stage and everything, because it's frustrating as a consumer of the industry originally and now a consultant to it. How many people put themselves out there as, you know, comprehensive and fiduciary, and we always put the client first. Mm-hmm. And it's like, cool, you manage $400 million of assets and you did 3 life insurance policies last year. Mm-hmm. You are not a fiduciary. Mm-hmm. And I get it. You hate life insurance. The process sucks. Whatever. But good God, you really want to look a 42-year-old widow in the eyes with 4 kids and explain that, well, underwriting sucks and I don't like asking medical questions, so we never offered life insurance to the breadwinner. Yeah. And that's reality. So I think for me, it's how do you everything to take the industry from where it's been, where it is, where it's got to go. Involves a framing in their own head first. If you believe what you do is valuable, then it doesn't become weird to talk about.
Right, exactly.
At all. And I always, regarding what I tell consumers about this industry is I view products, life insurance, property and casualty, term, whole life, cash value, doesn't matter. I view it all if it's like medicine, okay? Medicine, every medicine on the planet is brilliant if it's used to treat the exact symptoms that required it to be developed. Mm-hmm. But if I give chemotherapy to somebody who has asthma, I will kill them, right?
True.
And our industry is full of people that have one medicine to sell. They understand one thing, and they are diagnosing everybody with that problem.
Yeah.
And I think when you can take a step back and say, look, I own the whole pharmacy. I've got access to everything. My job is to identify the challenge, the illness, establish a treatment plan, convey to you what the benefits of executing on that plan would be. And you're a big person. You can decide to do it or not if you want the benefits.
Yeah.
But if you say, no, I don't want the medicine, that's cool. I did my job.
Yeah.
That's it. You got to frame it differently.
It's crazy.
Great analogy.
I'm super passionate about this too because that's what I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I went and worked with the top RIAs, fiduciary only, in the country for years. Watched their business models, referred clients to them, and saw a massive opportunity that there were holes in that model. Came over to Ellerbrock, started an RIA from scratch with this thinking like you that, it doesn't have to be this. I don't believe that the answer is necessarily like more segmentation around the professionals that should be able to help you. It's a more cohesive strategy. And how are you getting that advice? If CFP is the gold standard in how we provide financial advice in the world today, at the bottom of the CFP pyramid is risk management.
Yeah.
But we have some of the most respected, associations out there saying that we can't have financial advice through an RIA be affiliated with anything that has to do with insurance.
Yeah.
And it just blows my mind. Like, I truly feel from a consumer's perspective that there is and from our perspective, that there is a right way to do it if you believe it, if you communicate it, if you're transparent about it, and you educate and you try to change the way people think. Like,
totally. I would encourage advisors watching or anybody watching, when I'm on an airplane, which used to be before COVID happened, that'd be
just a couple times.
Yeah. Be 100 times a year maybe. When people, I put my headphones on, but for some reason people still want to talk to you. You know what I mean? I'm not even listening to things. I'm just pretending. And funny quick story. So I told an investment wholesaler that I hate talking to people on airplanes. And I said, people bug me all the time. And, hey, where are you headed? All that. Yeah. It's like, I'm never going to see you again. I don't want to talk. I want to watch something or read something. Yeah. And later, like a month later, I got a FedEx package. And he said, hey, I know you like to read books. Next time you're on an airplane, put this book cover on your book. Problem solved. And it said, how to sell life insurance on airplanes. That was brilliant. Awesome. Set it on your lap, and they'll be the ones making it.
Oh,
it's a perfect stereotype of our industry is that.
That is classic.
But what you just said is the problem, is this. So I always tell advisors that somebody who's really good for their consumer, there's 5 pieces to good, comprehensive financial advice. Now, you might do one of the 5, and that's fine. But you should coordinate with professionals who deliver the other things. And it's this simple. And this is what I tell consumers, is number 1, for every dollar you make, you should keep as much of that dollar as legally possible. So that's tax, right? Mm-hmm. You got to have somebody that makes sure you are maximizing everything you can, keep as much of the dollar as you can. Step 2, you got to have a strategy to grow what's left of the dollar in a way that's in line with your risk tolerance, that you understand. Okay, you got to grow the dollars. Number 3, while they're growing, you got to protect them in case something happens that you didn't plan on. Mm-hmm. Number 4, when you have all the dollars you planned on, because nothing bad happened, you got to have a strategy for how do you take the dollars and not outlive them. Mm-hmm. And then finally, if you die with the dollars, they ought to go where you want them to. That's it. So what's inside of all those? Number 1 is tax work. Number 2 is investment advice, how to grow dollars. Number 3 is risk management. Number 4, distribution. Number 5, estate planning. But when you look at all the fiduciary companies, if they're being honest, they're number 2 most of the time. Mm-hmm. They're accumulators. Mm-hmm. They're not wealth managers, comprehensive planners. They are wealth accumulators. Mm-hmm. And I get it. If you can earn a percentage of assets, that's a good revenue model. Yeah. But not if you're ignoring, like this guy. I'll see panels where that guy argues about his investment philosophy, and he got a 7% return for his clients when the market was down 2. And that guy's like, well, this is nothing. I got 10 for my clients. I got 11. It's like, fantastic. The dude you're talking about died while you guys were all getting him these amazing returns.
Yeah.
You didn't do anything with your cool investment philosophy.
Yeah.
That's what we got to start waking up.
Or a 7% return and 40% of it or 50% of it went to the government.
Exactly. Tax.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. The estate tax. Look at how many rich people are going to die and give their money to the government.
Yeah.
For what? They won't put a statue of you up or anything. Anyways.
Yeah.
Well, I know I love that, and that's where I think you're.
Yeah,
you're
that was a great
relatable
analogy.
and, yeah, because you have thought through, lining up those dominoes and being able to illustrate that in a very simple way. Question I've been wanting to ask from the start: what percentage of the industry do you feel like has at least started to make the transition to the true advisory model?
Oh boy.
Just off the top of your head.
That believe they are, like that want to.
Want to
And-
or are truly doing it. I mean, actively working to get there.
I probably wouldn't use the number of that think they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say a very small percentage. Well, you think about in 18 years, I've looked under the hood of countless firms.
Yeah.
When they hire me as a consultant, the first thing I do is lift the hood up and tell me everything. Tell me where the bodies are buried. That kind of stuff. And I look at how many of those firms, thousands of firms around the world, would I open up my briefcase and give all my assets to?
Yeah.
One hand.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Seriously, I can count it on one hand because almost unequivocally you look and it's kind of like there's not real comprehensive planning and collaboration occurring here. Now, I think a majority of firms are trying to move that direction.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think their websites say they are that, kind of the fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
But when I'm inside the firm, especially as an insurance company, trying to get these people to acknowledge your clients are taking risk right now, we got to fix that.
Yep.
I'm daily disappointed on their lack of motivation to resolve that risk on behalf of their clients. Yet they put commercials on TV and everything saying we're fiduciaries. And
Oh, yeah.
that's frustrating.
100%. And so I think Big Al just gave us the nod that we're getting close here. So I think I always like to kind of have some simple, brief takeaways that if I'm sitting in that transactional model today, whether it's on my own because of how I'm operating or maybe I'm at a firm that operates that way, but I see the light at the end of the tunnel. Dan, I believe everything you're saying. I listen to these guys every single week, and I love their podcast. Thank you. What are the first steps that those people can take very simply to get moving in that direction?
Yeah. One, I think there's transaction. Some products are transactions, right?
Correct. Yep.
But the problem I have, and the people I think that are at the greatest risk are people that function in one area with one product line and are transactional. Because I know plenty of people that do 5 transactions per client, and when you put them all together, they're pretty comprehensive and valuable to the consumer. So, but I think to take the analogy or the example I gave of keep as much of the dollar as you can, grow the dollar, protect the dollar, distribute the dollar, let it go where you want it to when you die, is to figure out, number one, where do I fall within that? What is my core expertise? And if I were going to expand beyond this silo that I'm stuck in today, which one of those things do I fit neatly into? Whether it's, we're a risk management, you guys are a great example at Elbrock. You saw that you're not just a commercial P&C firm and a home and auto firm, but we've got clients here, business owners that have substantial wealth and complicated scenarios, and you bring a guy like Ryan on and you build out a legitimate wealth management operation.
Yep.
That was you guys looking, without coining it what I did, there's a silo here that we would be really good at filling. Let's take action and put a plan behind how to do that. So I would encourage people to really start thinking about who is my customer base, what are their needs today that they're going outside of my walls to get. Because by the way, when you're sending them across the street to have that need fulfilled, the odds that that firm is starting to provide your service, very high. Mm-hmm. Why would you send your consumer to the competition to poke holes in your solutions? So I would figure out what's the next most, based on my consumer base, who should I be serving in diversified product lines. And then secondly, and you guys hear me talk about this all the time. When I look at Ella Brock Norris and think, what are all the different things that you guys do? All the different services. I own a business, right? Or I own 3 businesses. Write me a list of all the stuff you do. I mean, it's that long. Once your capabilities expand, people think, okay, now I provide 6 services. And then they sit there thinking, why is the parking lot full?
Yeah.
You have to go on a massive cross-education campaign with your customer base. You have got to stop that stereotype that this firm is this and say, no, we're not anymore, we're this. You don't want to hear a client ever say, I didn't know you did that. So number one, decide discipline-wise, where's a profitable way to expand, but a need that your consumer base already has, and expand. Number 2, go on a massive cross-education campaign. But number 3, be relentless in the mindset of bringing the value to the people and get out of your own way about I don't want to be a sales guy. This and that. I mean, there's a reason couples don't wake up in the morning and say, hey, let's go get life insurance today. Yeah, you think about my company, we do disability, life insurance, long-term care. We are one of the only companies on earth that sells a whole cadre of products that we hope you're totally wasting your money on.
Yeah.
Think about that. I hope you never use the products you bought from me.
Yeah. It's wild.
Absolutely.
It's weird.
Well, we really appreciate you coming in, Dan. If people like how you're talking, maybe want to change the way that they think, get some advice, and or earn some referrals, where can they go to get some? Because there's thousands of people listening right now, so I just want to make sure they can find you.
Yeah, so there's a few different places. All my handles, social media-wise, are Daniel Craig, Allison. Apparently there's some Daniel Allison and a Dan Allison that are younger and more social savvy than I am. And then website-wise, I've joined with a coaching company called Model FA. ModelFA.com. We got a ton of good videos and content around referability and how to identify your target consumer better and that kind of thing. And then BCHLife.com is the insurance firm. So if you've got clients right now that need risk management and you're not real good at that or active at it, that's a good place to start.
Sweet.
Awesome. Appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for coming in, man.
Stay tuned for next week. We'll have round 2 with Dan Allison, where we're going to be diving into a lot of his additional expertise and perspective in a few different areas. So
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks, man.
See you.